Muito bom dia a todos, sejam bem-vindos ao segundo dia da Lisbon Game Conference 2.0, perdoem a redundância. Ontem foi o nosso primeiro dia, foi espetacular e hoje vai ser mais curta a minha apresentação, vou-vos chatear menos, mas quero dizer as partes importantes. Como podem ver na mesa ao meu lado, estão prémios. Não são totalidade, ou seja, estes prémios vão ser oferecidos, os da ponta de cá, os 3 primeiros, em grupos de 3, ou seja, 3 ratos, 3 tapetes e 3 lit packs da Razer, que não são comercializáveis, vão ser oferecidos para quem jogar na nossa aplicação. Esta aplicação corre em paralelo com o evento. Vocês, ao falarem com as empresas no espaço, ao participarem nos painéis, ao participarem aqui dentro com este evento, assistindo às palestras, ao conseguirem, por exemplo, completar os desafios que lançamos ao longo do dia, chamados as quests, vão acumular pontos. No final, as 3 melhores equipas com o maior número de pontos irão receber aqueles 3 prémios para dividir entre si. No entanto, nós não quisemos esquecer quem não tem uma equipa para jogar. O objetivo é vocês acederem a este link. Quem tiver dispositivos Android, esse será automaticamente redirecionado para a loja para poder fazer o download da aplicação e poder instalar. Registam-se, criam uma conta, escolhem uma das 3 classes disponíveis, Warrior, Rogue ou Wizard, e formam uma equipa de 3. Se só puderem jogar sozinhos, também não nos esquecemos de vocês. Ao longo do dia, tal como eu disse, vão ser lançados desafios. Uns acumulam apenas pontos, outros dá direito a receber t-shirts ou outra memorabilia que tenhamos no evento. No final, apenas um selecionado das pessoas que está a jogar individualmente irá receber aquele pack na ponta da mesa oferecido pela Microsoft, que inclui um telemóvel Nokia Lumia 735, um powerbank, um Raspberry Pi e depois outras goodies que estarão dentro da mala. Este link vai estar disponível também lá fora, por caso quem não conseguir agora. Temos internet dentro do auditório sobre o nome do evento e temos também fora do auditório com o mesmo nome, mas qualquer questão que tenham ou qualquer problema que aconteça, tanto com a aplicação como com o acesso à rede, podem se dirigir diretamente à recepção ou a qualquer outro colega meu que se encontre lá fora e eles terão todo o gosto em ajudar-vos. Portanto, este senhor, de nome Miguel Vicente, permitiu que eu difamasse a foto dele para vos dar a vossa primeira missão. E esta missão é a seguinte. Este senhor também, para além daquele pack, disponibilizou códigos de Dream Spark para alunos da área das artes, da área das tecnologias, para que possam poder começar a fazer os vossos primeiros jogos e para que possam utilizar tecnologias Microsoft para o fazer. Como tal, vão estar disponíveis na recepção durante o decorrer do dia de hoje, códigos de Dream Spark. Um dos nossos colegas entrega-vos o código e depois vocês podem fazer o processo de registro com um dos colegas ao lado. A única coisa que nós pedimos para vos atribuir os pontos na aplicação é que façam o registro aqui no evento diretamente com um dos 4 colegas que lá vai estar. De resto, os pontos são logo adicionados e vocês poderão utilizar todas as tecnologias Microsoft da Dream Spark. Para que tenham uma noção, inclui Visual Studio, inclui Windows 10, inclui o Azure, que, segundo disseram aqui no workshop ontem de Unity, para quem não pôde estar presente, se quiserem fazer um paradoxo, ou seja, um pequeno MMO, podem utilizar um servidor na cloud para poder fazer, para poderem testar. Enfim, há imensas vantagens e, novamente, isto é uma oferta da Microsoft que gostaríamos que vocês pudessem aproveitar. Dura o dia inteiro e basta fazer a ativação, recebem automaticamente os pontos para que possam continuar a jogar e sejam recompensados também no evento por terem feito isto. Da minha parte é tudo. No entanto, gostaria de chamar ao palco o nosso primeiro convidado, por parte da Miniclip, para fazer uma apresentação sobre a sua experiência nos videojogos, Marcelo Careaga. Uma salva de palmas, por favor.
Hello, everybody. I guess everybody can hear me. So my name is Marcelo Careaga. I'm lead producer at Miniclip right now. I've been in games for quite a few years. I'll talk a little bit more about myself later on. What I'm going to be talking about today is a bit more closer to what maybe would be interesting for you guys. It's called A Brief History of Social Interaction in Games. It's a very complicated title for something that is actually a bit more simple. So the start for this presentation, where I started to think about to present this, was because, well, as a manager in the game industry, one of the main things that I do, one of the things that I've been doing for many years is interviewing people. I create teams, I interview people to join the company as producers, to join the company as assistant producers, as many things. One of the main questions that I tend to ask lately, it's something very simple. What game would you make? Given the budget, given the support, given the people, what kind of game would you make? I get several different types of answers, but some of them repeat themselves all the time. Many people reply this. I want to do a AAA game. They go directly to something like PS, they go something like FIFA, they go something like Uncharted, something really big. Then we have people that start talking about, letters. I want to do an RPG, I want to do an FPS, I want to do something like that, which is very cool. Then we have people that say, I want to do this cool game where you have a spaceship and you can travel to the planets and be whatever you like, whenever you like, and there's magic and space dragons and Ewoks and mech suits, and it gets really complicated. And then, last but not least, some people just say, well, I want to make a ball pool because they have read that that's the game that we've made. This is all very cool, and it's good in interviews because it's actually a very good conversation start. You can start talking about what kind of games we all make, we want to make, or I want to make, or the company wants to make. But there's something a bit concerning to me when I go to talks, when I go to industry meetings, and I find a lot of good people and a lot of young people coming into the industry only wanting to do this type of games, so this type of experiences. So my question is, why not a social game? What is it that to people that make games like us, it's a bit weird when you think about social games. So a lot of people think about them in a, let's say, very negative way. So I'm going to try to challenge that a little bit. So there's a bit of confusion about what social games are. Are they about playing with friends, just about, getting your friends on Facebook or Google Plus or whatever you use to actually interact with them? Are they about playing against friends, like competing against people and trying to win over them? Are they about being, casual type of games that you don't play that much, or you play once every day, or it's just light play? Are they about being in Facebook, mobile, some of those new platforms? Are they about being free? Are they just freemium, and premium experiences are never social? Is this right? Is social about viral spread, about how the games go from one person to another person? Well, in the end, social is not just, people together. We're all together here, but we probably are we're not social environment. Some groups of you are, but not all of us together. So in games, it's the same thing. It's not just about people together. It's not about relationships only. It's not about using your social graph, your friends, your family, the people that you have added on Facebook, whoever they are. Social is about all that, but with goals and context added to that. Social video games actually recover some very old ideas. A lot of people are very confused about this because they think that social is something new in games. Well, it's not really new. Social has been around for thousands of years in games. The first few games, even Senet in Egypt, Go or Weiqi in China, chess, were all social games. They were all games that were played with people, together with other person, against people, collaborating with people. There was always this social component, and we've seen that in all the history of games that are before the games that we play right now. Games have always been defined by its social interaction. Games were a method for social interaction and have been like that for thousands of years. Even in the modern age, we can see a lot of examples of this. We have board games, we have war games, we have RPGs, card games. I think many of you have played something like that. These are not electronic games, they're not the games, the video games that we know about and love right now, but they're all defined by being social, by being about playing with people. And then we come to, the electronic age. We come to video games, and in video games we find that the games, they don't stop being social. They're still social. They're still multiplayer. They're still, play by email, mods, LAN games, MMORPGs, all that. But we also see the appearance or the birth of the single-player game. And the single-player game experience is something that is very, very recent to gaming. And that's something that we forget about. So, wait. Why exactly am I talking about all this? Why is this relevant? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about my own experience. I didn't start making games as a game maker. I did economics in university. I did something that was completely outside of gaming. I was doing international trade for a while. I was doing consulting for a while, even some sort of, I was doing a lot of different stuff that had nothing to do with games at all. Very boring stuff. At some point, though, I realized that I've been playing games my whole life. I've been playing not just video games, but any type of games my whole life. So I decided to, make a change in my career, to change things around. And I started going to game companies and trying to see, okay, what kind of things would I want to do? And I discovered that what really interests me was not about making the next AAA game. I knew people that were doing that, and actually for a period I was actually doing that. But that was not what drove me, because that is a huge undertaking, taking into account that we have teams that are 200 people working on that. But there's more. There's something more about doing games for people, doing games that engage people to interact socially between each other. And then my own road started here. This is where I started. How many of you know about this game? How many of you know which game is this? Yeah, right. A lot of people will not call this a game. A lot of people at that point in time, they did not call this a game. This is not a game, they said. This is crap. This is a casual thing. This is not a game. Well, this is a game. This is about social interaction. It's more a game than many other games, actually, because it was purely about the social interaction of it. It was simple design, very simple design, based on very well-known principles of game design. Adding a very limited social interaction at the beginning, but then it got bigger and bigger. Cooperation triggers, bragging rights, some competition at the end. This is where I started. I started doing games with this. And the games and myself and everything else evolved over time, and we ended up in something like this. How many of you know this one? Clash of Clans. Okay, very good. Very good. So this is a bit more complex design. We went, if you see, the evolution was to go from something very simple to complicating stuff. We got to try to create experiences that were more core to the things that we design, core to the things that we as game designers, as people that work in the industry, want to see and want to play about. Complex design, story-driven, there was some depths, quests, stuff like that. Self-expression as an engine for keeping people interested in the game, and more friend involvement, not just collaboration, but also competition, visits, help, a lot of different things, and then the clans, of course. And then I went to this, and this is who knows this one? Okay, this is called Ruby Blast. It was a very simple match 3 type of game done by Zynga China. And this was basically extending this social idea, this multiplayer social idea, to even more casual titles, taking into account that at this point, this one was considered hardcore. So we've been moving like that. Social games, what we call social games, what we call games that are defined by the fact that they are about playing with friends and not about the experience itself, have been going through these phases. From there, there's been a lot of things open for social games to go to. Other social networks, Google+, other genres and markets, other platforms, and the most important one has been mobile. Well, why mobile? And this is where I am right now, and this is where we are right now in Miniclip, doing social games in mobile. And our games are defined by the social part, as we'll see later. Well, mobile is inherently social. What do you use your phones for? You use them to call people. Well, now you can use them to, go to the bathroom and have a good time, but you also use them to interact with people. That's the purpose of the mobile phone, and that is what it's all about. So social games fit very well with the platform. Mobile is, of course, big, it's profitable, we know that. But it's also personal, it's always on, at least mine is always on. It's seldom shared, it's always there, close to us. It is important, we consider it important. And the social loop in mobile can be very independent to anything else. You can have a social loop in mobile, you can have friends that you know because you talk with them or because you play with them on the mobile phone and you don't know in real life. And the existing market, the market that was existing before, it was the right one. Casual, freemium, easy to pick up. It's perfect for those kind of social games. But it's a fundamentally new space. So what we have done in Miniclip, and this is a bit about our own experience. We've done social too. We've done social in a slightly different way. If you see, these type of games are very different from the ones that were popular in Facebook at that time. And we went first with something like Soccer Stars, for example, as an example. You guys know probably Able Pool, which was one of our biggest titles. Soccer Stars is also here. So what is different about this one? Well, there is a very simple single player. Very, very simple single-player experience. It's all about the multiplayer, all about turn-based multiplayer, direct conflict, about being social in one. The betting system that we use creates more tension on the players. You put your own money that you create into the game into what's going to be your next move. That creates a lot of tension. There's leaderboards, there's tournaments, there's collaboration through gifting, there's social identification beyond the game because, well, one of the things that sell the most in this game, of course, is this type of teams. Because people identify with this. We just have Benfica, for example, so a lot of people probably identify with that. And that kind of social identification outside of the game can help a lot of times the social identification inside the game. Then there's a different example. I think some of you know this one, right? This one is very recent. We've gone through it very, very recently. We launched it in mobile very recently. And it's all about this. It's a game that it's about people. For those of you that don't know, each one of those big blobs is one person. And they are competing against each other in this particular server. It's a very simple thing. They can eat each other, and depending on how big they are, they can do several things. So it's a competition type of game. So what is different about this one? Well, this one is actually even more social than the previous one. It's minimalistic, elegant, very simple design. Everybody understands it in the 10 seconds that it takes for you to start it. There's no single player experience. There's nothing single player on this. It's eat or be eaten. That's the only thing that matters. It's just competitive. You have the leaderboards. You're just focusing on the social experience of, I want to eat these guys. There's complete lack of AI, which means that all the gameplay is emergent. All the gameplay is evolving. When we started the game, when the game was started, everybody was playing against each other. It was a chaos because everybody was trying to eat each other. What happened? That people started finding out that if they could team up somehow, this will give them a bit of advantage. So they started to team up. And then people started devising strategies to try to avoid other people to team up because it's unfair. So, you know, this whole emergent thing came up to be. And we saw that especially patently in the Turkish elections, which is an interesting story. In Turkey, there were elections, and, well, let's say followers of one of the parties went to the game, and they started, you know, putting the names of the president to be in the blobs and trying to eat other people around. And then the people that were from the opposite party were doing the same thing with their candidate. And there was a whole political battle in that game, which is kind of weird. But it's another good show that social goes beyond what we've seen in games, and it can be used. A lot of people were thinking about something like this. Is collaboration in this harsh environment something even possible? Can we collaborate? How much treason is there? And then there's some self-expressions and limited communication on the names, on the skins and stuff like that. So I've gone through several different kind of disjointed ideas in here, in this talk a little bit. So I want to bring that a little bit together to try to give some parting thoughts on what I really think this is about. Gaming, it's about the single player experience. It is about the single player experience. Gaming in video games has been about the single player experience for a long time. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That is what defined us growing up. That's what defined a lot of people growing up. However, one good goal for gaming as a whole, for the industry as a whole, or for us, for example, is to try to recover a little bit of that. A little bit of the social experience of, you know, gaming being about being with people, being about enjoying with people. And a lot of AAA games do this, and a lot of non-AAA games do this. There's many ways of trying to achieve this goal. So again, going back to the first question, what game would you make? What game is important to make? I'm not saying you should answer something different than what you really feel, because in the end, what you want to make is what you want to make. That's what drives you to be in this industry. But there's some things that I would like you to think about. You should think bigger. Bigger in terms of not just size, but bigger in terms of audience. How many people are going to play FIFA? How many people are going to play Clash of Clans? Do you realize how bigger the Clash of Clans audience is regarding to FIFA? Is that something good? Maybe that's something that you have to think about, that you want to think about. Maybe bigger in that sense is something that you want. think beyond your personal experience. You may have played a certain type of game. You may love a certain type of game, but not everybody does. And maybe the people that you actually can reach better is not the people that you are. Think beyond your own preferences. Again, it's the same as before. It's great to want to do something particularly, but what if people that you have around you want to play something different? What if your partner, what if your mother, what if your brother or your sister want to play something different? Why not using their experience? Why not using their preference to try to define what you want to make? And think about not doing the game that you want to play. I know this is kind of antithetical to many game developers out there, that we all think, okay, I want to do the game that I would really want to play. That's great as a goal, but maybe instead of thinking about the game that you would like to play, you have to think about the game that others would like to play, that others will love. And if you're able to sublimate your own experience and sublimate your own preferences into creating a game that others will want, then you have something important, and then you have developed something that will allow you to reach more people better. So that's what I have for you today. If you have any questions, please bring them on. You can find me here. Thank you very much.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
From your presentation, I would think that you have played role-playing casual board games. No? Yes. Okay. So the social game that's usually called role-playing game is all about telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
And although Farmville does have that story that you go back to the city, to the farm that you fled from when you went to the city, is more about farming your shard of friends into giving you coins. So how do we bring storytelling games because most of the real storytelling feeling that we have now is from interactive fiction, which is starting to break off again, and from Walking Dead. How do we bring storytelling to the real social contribution that we all want to play?
Thanks, that's a great question. So, well, storytelling in social games. From my point of view, there's several ways to do storytelling. We do in games a lot of storytelling in the way that we've learned to do from movies, from TV, from comic, from books, from a lot of things like that. We do linear storytelling. There's many games that are trying to do non-linear storytelling. You have games like Kingdoms Come Deliverance, for example, that is trying to do this very, very strongly. You have games like the Witcher series, for example. They're trying to put stories in a way that can only be taught in games. In social, that is always possible to an extent. But to me, what I've seen as the most powerful way to create stories in social, it's about the emergent gameplay. So let me tell you a small story. When I started to play Farmville, I did not like the game. I did not like the game at all. It was boring, it was repetitive, it was all clicking, it was, why the hell would I spend so much of their time creating these things? And then I started playing more, and I discovered that after a while, I was very low level, and I was still trying to do my, you have your huge crops and you're trying to do this thing. I started imagining a story for myself. I started seeing that little pool character going around, picking up the crops, and I was trying to do life difficult for him. I was trying to have him go and walk around as much as he could be, because I could just click around the map and he will go around the map and he will go around happily to do everything. But I was imagining him going through, oh God, I really have to pick up all of this stuff again. I really have to go that far and then come back. There was this kind of thing. We started seeing, when we were developing a game like Cityville, for example, that people will create their own stories. People will interact with each other. They will use decoration, for example, which is kind of limited, as a way to self-express what they wanted to express. They created these beautiful farms, these beautiful cities, these amazing places that could never have been created any other way. Now, is that storytelling? That's not necessarily the storytelling as we think about it, but that's another thing that social games have brought to me, at least. The idea that sometimes game design is not about you designing other people's experiences. It's about other people taking what you've done to design their own experience. And I would like to think that that's important. Anybody else? Sure.
If no one has any more questions, I might. That was a great answer, but I think we can go still further.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question. Let me check. So one thing that I think casual does really casual as the type, right? Does really wrong, and that they didn't learn from the past. Well, I remember in '99 I was playing Archmage and Utopia. Do you know these games?
Which one? Sorry.
Archmage and Utopia. They're like the predecessors from O Game and Trivium and stuff. And one thing that I think they did quite well, since it were competitive games, is limit the amount of time that people can input into the system.
Yeah.
And I think casual is doing it wrong, or maybe it's not. You tell me, but because usually we just give what players say that they want. They say they want to play more, so we give them more credits, and they'll play forever and have no life, and then they will quit because it's either you have a life or play the game competitive, and that's why so many people hate free-to-play games and hate this kind of competitive games. So I was thinking, why don't you just make a competitive game that it's possible to have more social experience outside of the mechanics. So just limit the input of amount of time that the player has to make, so he's free more to do social interactions and meta gaming outside of the time that he has to be clicking on the crops or something.
So, well, that is possible, and that's been done a lot. There's a lot of games that rely on systems that are outside of the core gameplay to create a social interaction, right? I've known people that I've met through World of Warcraft and they got married. You know, it's possible to play a game as complex as it is and still have social interaction outside of the game linked up to it. In social, that also happened. That also happens. However, social and casual are different, not on their approach to gameplay. It's not gameplay that defines casual. I don't think it's gameplay that defines casual, it's accessibility. And this comes down to one thing that you mentioned and I want to point out. To me, there is no wrong way to play a game. There is no wrong way. You take a game, whatever game you want, AAA, casual, social, I don't care. You give it to somebody, and that somebody, if they are playing, doing something in there and having fun, I don't care if the objectives are one thing or the other. And we should not care. I know people, for example, me, I am a huge AAA fan. I like games in general. But sometimes I take a game like Grand Theft Auto, for example, and I get bored of it. I get bored of the quests. I get bored of go there, kill people, steal something. And I end up just running around the world, taking pictures of it. That's what I do. I go around, take pictures of it, and then I have them on my computer, I look at them and I say, oh, this is cool. I've been visiting these places. Well, it's not really true. But you know, it is something cool to do. Why is that wrong? What casual tries to do is to give games that are more simple to people that haven't played games before, or that they don't have the time to play games anymore, or that they just want a simple experience. Casual is defined by the people that played it. It's defined by the way they interact with things. It's not defined by us. It's not a wrong way to do things. What I do think in terms of, going back to your question, even in casual, creating experiences, social experiences outside of the game, it's a bit like a step, it feels like a step back to me. as much as that's possible, I would prefer to have the social experience defined by the interaction, defined by the gameplay itself, not by, you know, you can also chat, and then that's a social experience, because that's something that actually WhatsApp could do. If WhatsApp tomorrow they launch a small mini app inside their own app that allows people to play, I don't know, rock paper scissors in there. Actually, WeChat does that in China. That is social interaction and games together from the other side. I don't think that that's what we want. Thank you. Any other question?
Hi, here.
Okay, hello.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to know, how do you jump from economics to the video game side? Because I have a similar background, and I would like to know how you got into it.
So how did I enter in games?
Yeah, from a background in economics.
Okay, I don't know if you can use that as an example though, but okay. I play games all my whole life. I started doing stuff with games with journalism. So I started using my own time to collaborate in a few websites that were talking about games from a consumer point of view, just writing stuff about them, just playing them, just talking with people about them. But what I was studying was more about management, was more about, you know, real life economy, very boring stuff. Then I went and did an MBA, and in my MBA I had the opportunity to be able to change careers. This is one thing that people do. And I had two options. Either investment banking-ish, or, sorry if there's any investment bankers here, I hope not, or video games. Why video games? Because, well, I was in China at that time, the industry was booming, and there was just lack of proper management, lack of proper direction on things, and think about business from a different point of view. And that's how I got in. I got in to manage people first, to manage producers, to manage projects. Then I moved into product little by little, and discovered that I like doing game design. I like doing this kind of stuff. And that's where I am right now. It's follow your dreams type of speech, but you know, I've discovered, talking with people in the game industry, that we all come from very weird places, very, very weird places, because there's not necessarily a good path to arrive to the industry. There's many paths, many of them are good, but if you really want to make games, then just use your time to do something around them. That will help. Okay, thank you very much.